In this episode of the Locked On NBA Big Board podcast, James and I, we're going to share our thoughts on the 6 prospects who just received invites to the green room for the 2025 NBA draft. And also, we're going to share our thoughts on who is still waiting. Big shout out to each and every person that has made the Locked On NBA Big Board podcast your first listen of the day. And in this case, it could be like your 5th listen because we put out quite a few episodes today. But this episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. I guess I forgot to introduce myself. I'm your host, Rafael Barlowe, along with my co-host, who happens to be my younger brother, James. And if you're not subscribed to the YouTube channel, please subscribe, like, share, comment, and click the bell so you can be notified every time we drop an episode. We did a live stream last night, which was Sunday night. We put out an episode about the big Desmond Bane trade with Memphis and all Memphis's picks. We covered the international deadline yesterday. And then Locked On had a Locked On channel-wide mock draft, which featured all of the Locked On hosts making picks for their teams. I guess I was on the front desk commenting about the picks. So check that out. It is a 4-part series, I believe. So please check that out. But this episode, we got to talk about the big news of today. Not a lot of news going on today, draft related, but there was a big breaking news about the green room invites. And if you're not familiar with the green room, it is basically the room where the players and their families are suited and booted in their finest. And when their name is called by Adam Silver, they get to go up and shake the commissioner's hand. It is pretty much the ultimate sign of you're going to be a first-round pick. I mean, every once in a while, there are cases where it doesn't happen. They announced, 13 invites last week? Mm-hmm. And then they added 6 more today. And according to Jonathan Gavoni from ESPN, there are 5 more invites expected. So let's go down the list. From last week, Cooper Flagg from Duke, Rutgers, freshman Dylan Harper and Ace Bailey, Baylor's VJ Edgecombe, Texas's Trey Johnson, Duke's Common Maliwauch, along with Con Kneppel, Oklahoma's Jeremiah Fears, Illinois' Kaspar Jakachonis, BYU's Yegor Demon, Arizona's Carter Bryant, Derek Queen from Maryland, and Asa Newell from Georgia. So when they came out with the list of 13 last week, I thought, you know what? 13 is a weird number. Why didn't they just go with 14, which represents the 14 lottery picks? And the player that I thought should have been on that list was Noah Essengue. But I don't think Essengue had done his official measurements yet because he's still playing. So he is official. So Essengue gets an invite. To me, he's I have him going higher than 14, but to me, he's a lottery pick. I think he would have been in that first wave if he had did his official measurements. But let's talk about Essengue. I have him going 8 to Brooklyn on my latest mock. I've talked about him at length. I just love what he brings to the table. Young dude, one of the youngest players in the draft. Started the season off at 17 years old. He's currently still playing for Radio Farm in Germany. I'm not surprised, but do you think Essengue ends up being a lottery pick in next Wednesday's draft? I mean, it's next Wednesday, man. It's coming up.
I know, right? Well, in the mock that I just released last night, I have him going 8 to Brooklyn as well. I didn't copy you, but yeah, I think he's a no-brainer, a lottery pick. And like we had mentioned last time we had this discussion on Green Room invites, it was like, oh, he's definitely the guy that got left off for obvious reasons. He was still playing. So I'm not surprised that he got the invite. I don't think he falls past 9 realistically, which is Toronto. So I think he's a top 10 pick, 8 or 9. Maybe somebody surprises us, everybody, or somebody trades up to take him. But I really like his game. And, like I said, he's benefiting from he's still playing. So it's like you still got good film out there, whereas these other guys, these Americans, the college players, we're going back and now we're nitpicking and we're figuring out who we really like or who we don't like, or maybe some opinions are changing either way.
All right, let's talk about the next 5 guys. And to me, this 5 is pretty interesting. You have Thomas Sorber, Liam McNeeley, Collin Murray-Boyles, Nolan Traore, and Will Riley. Yes, I expected those guys to be in the green room, but just seeing that list or hearing those names, what's the first thing that stands out to you?
First two that stand out to me: Sorber and Liam McNeeley. Mainly Liam McNeeley. Sorber, yeah, you'd have told me he was going to get a green room invite. I'd have believed you. I'm still kind of on the fence, the other side of the fence on Liam McNeeley, especially considering like Rasheer Fleming hasn't got a green room invite.
Yeah.
Neat Clifford hasn't got one yet. We both think Cedric Coward should get one. So, and also like, these green room invites are not necessarily an indication of where you're going to be drafted either. So
It's not an indication of where you're going to be drafted, but I think it is a good indicator of how teams feel about you. And when you look at a lot of different mocks, they have Cedric Coward going in, maybe late lottery or in the early teens. And so far, out of the 19 names, he's not one of the names mentioned. So we'll talk about the guys that we expect to be in that next 5. But to me, the biggest shocker here, and it kind of makes me feel good about my overall evaluation, is Nolan Traore. If you look at different mocks, he's all over the place. I've seen him in the 20s. I've seen him late 20s. I have him going number 10 on my mock. If I'm Houston, I'm taking him because I'm still believing in everything that he showed us last year. Just got off to a rough start to start his year this year playing in France. But I actually feel good about it. I'm like, okay, you know what? Maybe the NBA execs are a little bit higher on him than social media. But then on the flip side of that is I'm shocked at Liam McNeeley. I don't have Liam McNeeley as a first round pick just because like the main appeal for him was the outside shooting and he shot 32% from 3. If I want to ask you, how do you feel about Traore? Are you shocked to see that he's in the second wave of green room invites?
Not shocked. Like I said, it's if you take into account, again, obviously he's young. He played in the top French division. And then, he played extremely well at Nike Hoop Summit. He had his moments at the ANGT tournament. Like, he's talented. He can play. So him getting this invite doesn't, surprise me. Again, I have him in the 20s still.
You have him at number 26.
I have him at 26. That's just my personal preference. I still think that the talent is there, but he has a lot of glaring holes he needs to fix. But him getting a green room invite, again, if I'm thinking about the consensus, not of draft Twitter, not of social media, but of the NBA, a team is going to sit there and say he's fast, he shoots well off the catch. We can work on. And he's got great size. We can.
So you're not surprised that he was in this second wave?
No, not in a sense. But like you said, with Liam McNeeley, I'm surprised. I'm surprised that Rasheer Fleming, who we'll talk about probably in depth more, is not. Like I said, I feel like Traore to me is an easier sell than Liam McNeeley.
Yeah, I think so too. I don't have McNeeley as a first round pick. And he's a guy that I've heard that his stock is sliding and people aren't as high on him. But again, these green room invites may tell a different story. All right, up next, we're going to dig a little bit deeper into Collin Murray-Boyles, Thomas Sorber, Liam McNeeley, Nolan Traore, and Will Riley. And then we're also going to talk about the next 5 guys that we think should be invited to the green room. The NBA Finals are in full swing, and every night delivers highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments. So whether it is a winning shot or a breakout player, there's never been a better time to get in on the action, and FanDuel makes it very easy to stay in the game before tip-off and during the game. With player props and performance trends and same-game parlays, fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. So if you got a good read on who's heating up, why not back it up with a same game parlay? And also, how could $200 in bonus bets add to the excitement if your first $5 bet wins? So if you are new to FanDuel, this is the perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet. And if it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. So make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, second segment. So Collin Murray-Boyles, you have him at number 17. I'm sorry, you have him at number 16 on your mock. So based off of your last mock, him being in the second wave of green room invites is not surprising at all. You have Thomas Sorber at number 17, make your second wave. So Will Riley and Nolan Traore are two guys you have outside, actually Liam McNeeley. Three of the guys that were in the second wave you have outside of your top 20. You have Will Riley at number 28 or going number 28 to Boston. You have Nolan Traore going number 26, and then you have Liam McNeeley outside of your top 30. In your humble opinion, why are the executives and the people voting for the green room, why are they higher on these three guys than you?
I'm not going to sit here and say that I'm right and guys are wrong. I just feel like it's differing opinions. And at the same time, like, I'm going to sound like a hater, but like, how is Liam McNeeley a second wave green room invite and Jase Richardson is not?
Oh, I didn't even think about Jase Richardson.
You know what I'm saying? So I'm not going to sit here and say, this, that. Like, I don't know what goes into selecting green room invites outside of maybe a consensus of how teams feel. But, and I don't even really wish guys sit in the green room past the first round. I just feel like I'm higher on certain guys and lower on certain guys. Will Riley getting a green room invite he's surprising to me to get one. And it's not because of knock on his game. It's just I thought teams would be maybe a little lower on him. But again, you said, as we talked about last night in that live podcast that we did, that he's out there destroying guys in, workouts. And I know he had his ups and downs as a shooter this season. And again, why I am surprised that he got a green room invite. Up and down shooter. The frame is really, really thin, and he just kind of projects to me as somebody who probably needs a couple of years just to fill out. And while he can put the ball on the ground, it's good, but it's not great. So him getting one is surprising to me, but like Liam is like really surprising to me. Yep. Is what I'm saying.
All right, let's flip it. Let's talk about why they may have gotten an invite in the second wave. To me, for Will Riley, it is the positional size, the promise as a shooter. He actually had a lot more on-ball reps as a pick-and-roll ball handler than I expected. And so I'm not too surprised, but I can't say that I thought he would have been on the list ahead of certain guys like Neat Clifford, Said Coward, Jase Richardson, and we'll talk about them in the last segment. For Traore, again, had top 5 buzz coming into the season, had, just an adjustment period. And I don't think people realize how difficult it is as a point guard, an 18-year-old point guard, to be given the keys to the offense on a professional team. Yes, it happens in the NBA all the time, but in Europe, there's no reward for losing. Every game is all about winning. So when you are an 18-year-old point guard, you're expected to win. I can't think of too many situations, maybe Tony Parker in like 1999, where a young point guard was given the keys to the offense and the team was trying to win. In the NBA, normally, if you're drafted high and you're the starting point guard, that team is trying to develop you and they're probably rebuilding. And your mistakes could help them get a higher draft pick the following year. So with Traore's struggles, I just think it's been over magnified and not a lot of context have been put behind it, because I think if I would have put Jeremiah Fears or Yegor Dimon or Kaspar Jakachonis in the same situation and said, hey, we need you to quarterback us to victories, I think they would have had similar struggles. Liam, I mean, to me, it just has to be about pre-college reputation. He came into college with the reputation as just like this really intelligent shooter that can play 3 and the 4, guy that competes and is a winner. And just this year at UConn, I know he had an injury. He did have one game against Creighton where you're like, I see the vision. But other than that, I mean, I thought he struggled 31% from 3, but I just think a lot of it has to do with just the pre-college narrative. And sometimes that matters. And then Sorber just came out of nowhere. And I think sometimes if you are ascending at the right time, and Sorber was good.
No, I'm not making any faces at Sorber getting anybody.
Yeah, Sorber was good. Like, he caught a lot of people by surprise. I don't know anyone that saw Thomas Sorber as a first-round pick coming into the season. Definitely not someone that would have been, a projected top 20 pick. So I'm not too surprised, but again, I would have thought there were some guys that would have got the invite ahead of him. And then Collin Murray-Boyles.
That doesn't surprise me at all.
Yeah, I mean, some people love him. I think he's in the category of polarizing. Like, your analytics guys love him. I don't know anybody that really, really values numbers and analytics that isn't extremely high on him. And then I know like eye test guys are, they're torn. And we mentioned it on the live stream yesterday. I've never seen a player whose team had the same record as South Carolina and is not held against them. And, people say, well, look at his teammates. But I'm like, nobody has ever been given that excuse when their team was, I think they were like 10 games under 500, maybe 8 games, something like that.
They were over in conference play for a very long time.
For a very long time. But again, he's a defender. He's got a little boogie to his game. Boogie translation means he can handle the ball. He's a matchup nightmare. He is a matchup nightmare on the college level and maybe on the pro level because he can attack. I mean, he can punish smaller guys on switches. Just the concern is the outside shooting. But that is the reason why I feel like NBA teams like them enough to give them an invite. So for you, give me your rundown on the reason why these guys are in the second wave.
Collin Murray-Boyles is in the system, I guess you could say. Like, he was at the Nike camp last summer, and he had a productive season. Him getting a green room invite, it doesn't surprise me, even if his team's trash and he doesn't shoot jumpers. But he's a lottery. He can go from 10 to 20. Sorber, again, I think he played well enough, surprisingly or not, but he played well enough to get this green room invite. Like I said, I have him 17. I think that is about where his range is going to be. The argument for Liam, he's a winner. He does this, he does that. I'm still not rolling with that because, I mean, I don't really care what you did in high school as far as like the green room invite. Connecticut did advance, so I believe the second round. They played Florida. He had a good game on paper. A lot of that stuff, a lot of the points he scored. I sound like a hater today, but a lot of the points he scored against Florida were when the game was decided. But if you don't watch the game, you saw he got loose against Florida, the eventual national champion. But again, like I said, I'm a little lower on him. Hopefully, he goes where he is supposed to go and he can have a long career. Like I said, Traore, I'm not surprised because, again, if you want to talk about the pedigree and, you look at everything that he's done and you erase like that portion of the season where he struggled, like he still has a good resume. I just still have my concerns. And like Will Riley, again, I mean, now that I think about it, maybe him it's not necessarily him getting a green room invite. It's when he got the green room invite. And he just did not have a better season than Jase Richardson by any stretch of the means. Yeah, and like Will Riley, I mean, if we're going to, put the diamond tester on somebody's jumper, like Will Riley shot 32% from 3 and he's supposed to be a shooter too. So
it just shows saying positional size matters.
Because it does matter, but like I mean, every dude that's 6'8" doesn't have a long career in the NBA.
No, I get it.
Every dude that's 6'8" can't play. I'm not talking about Will Riley in particular. I'm just saying, like, you being 6'8" just means you're 6'8" to me. If we're talking about, okay, the one thing that he does better than Jase Richardson is he's taller.
Yeah, I think that
And that's not a guarantee of a better career.
No,
so how does he get an invite over Jase Richardson?
Because Jase measured out at 6 foot. To me, that's the only thing I can think of. He measured out at 6 foot. Teams probably got scared behind that. And he just, I think he should get a green room invite. But statistically, if I'm Jase Richardson, I'm looking at this list, and I'm hanging these guys' photos up in my house, and they're my targets. But here's something about Liam that's interesting to me. I like Tankathon.com. And when they have like their stat strengths and stat weaknesses, Liam has 3 strengths, and everything else is considered a weakness. The 3 strengths are free throw percentage, projected NBA 3-point percentage, and to me that has to be based off reputation and not numbers, and draft age. Because he shot 31% from 3, but they have a strength as projected 3-point percentage, and that's fair. But I'm just wondering, what are they basing the number off of? It has to be prior reputation.
The projected 3-point percentage?
Yes, as a strength.
I think he had good catch and shoot numbers on Synergy.
But I'm just saying, like, there are guys that is not labeled as a strength on their profile, and they had a higher percentage. And then for stat weaknesses, I mean, they have literally everything, every category: field goal percentage, defensive rating, effective field goal percentage, steals, 2-point percentage.
So maybe I don't sound crazy when I say I don't know how he got a green room invite, especially the second wave.
I find it very, very interesting. And it's just, again, and then when I look at Jase Richardson, for example, Tankathon has him going 15. When you look at his stat strengths, it is everything is green. Every single statistical category except he has one stat weakness, which was rebounds. So I find that very interesting. All right, up next, we're going to talk about the 5 players that we believe will get the next wave of invites. According to Jonathan Gavoni, there are 5 more invites out. I think there's more than 5 guys that believe they're going to be top 20 picks than invites. All right, last segment. I'll let you go first. Who are your 5 guys that you believe will be in the next wave of green room invites? And just for context purposes, I mean, I've seen the NBA hand out green room invites like 2 days before the draft. I think Jalen Hardy got a very, very late invite.
They say you got him that one.
What's that?
They say you got him that green room invite.
Yeah,
man, you got some power, Ralph. You getting drafted.
It was a joke going around a couple years ago that I made a tweet that said, how does Jaden Hardy, who was like the, like supposed to be like the big dog in the G League Ignite program, not get a green room invite? He was like the face of the program that year. Statistically, he was okay. Like, what does that show for like the Ignite? That if you have a good year in their program playing against pros and it means nothing, and you can't get a green room invite. So a friend of mine joking, I don't know if he was joking or not, but he says, hey man, you better believe the NBA saw that tweet because that's a bad look for their recruiting process. I said, nah, man, it has nothing to do with me. And then like 2 days later, he got an invite and he texted me. He was like, trust me, if they were trying to recruit players the following year against college and a parent says, you got this guy to skip college, you paid him this amount of money, he averaged more points per game than this college prospect, and he didn't get invited, why should I go? So with that being said, Hardy still ended up being a 2nd round pick. But I think in a redraft, he would be a 1st round pick. So anyway, with that being said, right now, Jonathan Gavoni says 5 more invites are going out. Who's your 5?
Well, if James Barlowe says 5 more invites are going out, Rasheer Fleming for sure is getting one. Told you Jase Richardson. He should have had the second wave for sure. He should have been like the 3rd or 4th name.
You need to be in the gym right now listening to Pac.
Man, Tom, come on now, man. Pac, 2005, Joe Budden. He need to
angry music.
But the young boys listen to Ride Wave. I don't know if that gets your game right. But I guess he angry
too. That make you depressed.
Yeah,
that probably make him start feeling down on himself.
Yeah,
I don't listen to Railway. I just heard this music is depression, but go ahead.
I gave you 2. I think Walter Clayton Jr. should get one as well. That's 3. I think Ray Nose should get one. I'm surprised you're not jumping on the top of the chairs talking about where's Ray Nose green room invite, Ralph. You got him going in the lottery.
We still got time left in this segment, man. We still got time left.
Fault. Then, if not Walter Clayton, okay, my fault. I got 3 for sure. Get your suits, get your chains, get your yays. Neat Clifford, Rasheer Fleming, Jase Richardson. Those 3 for sure. Then I can be talked into Walter Clayton and Rayno / 6th man. The green room invite would be Cedric Coward. But I understand why he wouldn't get one because teams would say the resume. But we know how we feel about Cedric Coward. But yes, those would be my 5/6.
So for me, I would go with Rasheer Fleming for sure. Cedric Coward. I would go with Neat Clifford. I would go with Maxime Reynaud, of course.
It's 4.
The last one is interesting.
Why?
Jase? Because, and Jase. And I would go with Jase. But it's interesting because, and it was mentioned in our live stream yesterday that people were asking, why is ESPN so high on Joan Beringer? I'm standing in my French accent. Okay. And I just felt like, has he done enough to be like a projected mid-first round pick? So I find it interesting that even though ESPN is high on him and, ESPN's rankings are, supposed to be about intel, if the intel is saying that Beringer is a projected lottery pick, but he's not in their first 19, I find that very interesting. But you can also say the same thing about Jase Richardson. I mean, I haven't seen their latest mock, but Jase Richardson is a guy that most people think is a top 20 guy. Now, again, 19 invites have been out, so there's still room for one. But for him to not be in that second wave, we've talked about it at length, is surprising. But I'm trying to think of who else could be in that range. Walter Clayton Jr. could be in that range. Danny Wolf could be in that green room range. And after that, I wonder, like, Hugo Gonzalez. He's a player that, again, we talked about on the live stream. If you go back and look,
we giving Hugo Gonzalez a green room invite?
I wouldn't be surprised because he's just. I mean, if you look at the 2006 generation,
go get in the gym, go get you some Pac, go get you some 05 Joe Budden.
I don't think he'll get one.
Disrespecting you, Drake Powell.
I mean, they both were in situations where, they didn't get a chance to really show what they can do. Powell had more of an opportunity, he played good minutes, but I am somewhat surprised that some teams who have been high on Gonzalez prior to this year, and it's not like he didn't perform this year, he just didn't get the opportunity, which everybody knew, coming into that. Noah Penda, but I would say, like, outside of my top 5 guys that I think are going to fill out that list, again, Neat Clifford, Cedric Coward, Jase Richardson, Maxime Reynaud, and Rasheer Fleming, I think the next wave would have to be like Walter Clayton Jr. and maybe Ben Saraf.
Nah.
I don't know.
I want to know the science, the breakdown behind the green room invites.
I mean, the executives and decision makers, they vote on it, which we've seen guys get voted to the green room and be stuck in the green room. I think this year is going to be scary because I believe this year that there's going to be 2 guys.
You naming them?
No, I'm not going to name them. There's going to be 2 guys who will get a green room invite because I don't think they're going to stop at 24 or 25. And I know the NBA wants to avoid guys being, picked in the second day. They don't want guys to come back. But I think there's going to be 2 guys, and I don't know who, that end up getting a green room invite and getting drafted on the second day. Again, I've said it the last few weeks. I think this NBA draft day and the days leading up to the draft is going to be wild. There's going to be a lot of trades. It's going to be teams that don't have first round picks that are going to be trading into the first round that are probably going to get a guy that they like. I mean, I'm hearing that guys are ducking guys in workouts and is forcing teams to draft guys that they may not have brought in for a workout. Then there's like weird stuff going on, like Rocco Zakarsky I haven't heard any buzz about him working out, and maybe he has.
I don't think I've seen him on any. Maybe I'm missing out.
Does he have a guarantee? Because
have you seen him on any workouts? Like team brought in Rocco Zakarsky?
I haven't. But to me, something is very odd about him not playing 5-on-5 at the combine. There's no real buzz about his name. I mean, like last year, Deron Holmes, shut it down. Completely shut it down. No workouts. Everyone's trying to figure out who gave him a guarantee. Not only did he get a guarantee from Denver, they traded up to get him because they felt like there's some other teams that were going to draft him without him even working out. So I think it's going to be a wild night. I mean, for the sake of the guys that may get a green room invite and have to come back on the second day, I hope that doesn't happen. But I just think that this draft is going to be wild. But I also think that the NBA is going to try to be careful and not allow that to happen. So they may keep it at 24, 25, but then I can also see them doing something like last minute saying, hey, we're going to.
But you know what, though? If that were me and I was, I saw a name 28 on mocks all across the internet, whatever, and I got a second day and I didn't get drafted the first day and the second day, I don't know how embarrassed I would be. I think I'd be okay in the sense that, you still get to shake the commissioner's hand. This is everything you dreamed of.
Shaking the commissioner's hand. The commissioner,
you get to shake the deputy commissioner's hand.
Mark Tatum's hand.
He's still a commissioner. He's just a deputy. I mean, listen, I know you're on the 20th floor of the building, but it's still.
There's no stage. At least last year was no stage. You in a ballroom.
Man, they had the glare on, man. Bobby Clinton.
No, somebody's gonna take this the wrong way.
It's still an honor, man.
Of the Locked On NBA Big Board podcast. We are going to do another live episode, so I need to get this out before the live episode, but we are going live again after, Game 5? Game 5 of the NBA Finals, because James still has 5 picks that he needs to share his thoughts on from his mock draft 2.0. Once again, we are out of here.